A lot going on,
Yeah.
and there are a couple of stories there that might seem at first to be disassociated, but I think in the fullness of time we'll come to understand. First, the story from Israel about border security, and then the final topic from Boston on the Boston Marathon. National security, whatever country it is, Israel, the United States, you name it, national security is based on border security and dealing with issues of the border and immigration. We're so pleased that Newsmax correspondent Morgan Thompson joins us now on a voting law being upheld in Kansas and my home state, the border state of Arizona. Morgan?
Well, thank you, JD. A federal judge upheld state laws in Kansas and Arizona requiring new voters to show proof of U.S. citizenship. The decision could encourage other states to adopt similar policies. The proof of citizenship requirement means new voters must provide a birth certificate, passport, or other documentation in order to vote. This requirement goes beyond the federal registration form, which requires voters to only sign a statement saying they're citizens. Supporters of the move say it will prevent voter fraud by preventing non-citizens from voting. Opponents say it's disenfranchising voters. Now, JD, as you know, this is a big victory for Arizona because they suffered a loss last year at the Supreme Court.
It was a very difficult loss last year at the Supreme Court, Morgan, over Senate Bill 1070. And the irony of that was that Arizona was simply trying to enforce existing federal law on immigration policy. But a man who argued both cases joins us right now. He is Arizona Attorney General Tom Horne, who joins us by phone. Tom, we welcome you to America's Forum. It's good to have you.
Hi, JD. It's good to be with you, and I'm on your Skype if you want to put me on.
Well, we may be able to do that during the break as technologically we try to take care of this. And of course, General, we would know you to be technologically adept, so we'd love to have you Skype in as we move forward with this. But if you could just drill down for us on the ruling earlier this week and the importance of it for Arizona and for Kansas.
Yes, and let me say, JD, that the U.S. Supreme Court case contained the language that led to today's victory. So it wasn't really a loss at the U.S. Supreme Court. I had argued that case myself at the U.S. Supreme Court. The Ninth Circuit, which, as you may know, is America's most liberal circuit, had ruled that Arizona is not allowed to ask people registering to vote for evidence of citizenship. All they have to do is sign their name, and that, according to the Ninth Circuit, is sufficient. Well, if they're willing to vote fraudulently, they're willing to sign falsely. So that's really no protection for the integrity of the system. I argued it at the U.S. Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court issued a decision that told us to go to the district court, and they had language in their decision. For example, the decision said that Arizona is correct in arguing that it is of questionable constitutionality for the federal government to tell states they can't get the information they need to be sure their voters are qualified. So using that language from the Supreme Court case, which was, in my mind, a victory, although it wasn't an immediate victory, we were able to win this case yesterday in federal district court, saying that indeed we are permitted to ask people for evidence of citizenship.
Now, Mr. Horne, this applies to new voters. What about voters that already exist? How does that apply to them?
This applies only to people who are registering to vote. So,
okay.
Right.
So if you've already registered, perhaps fraudulently, your grandfather did.
Well, unless we catch you. Now, you know, one of the myths that has been propagated by our liberal media here in Arizona, which you're familiar with liberal media probably in other parts of the country as well, but it's particularly bad here in Arizona, is that voter fraud is not a significant problem. This case started with a trial, and a federal district judge here in Arizona found after that trial that voter fraud is a significant problem in Arizona. There were over 200 people who swore on jury commissioner forms that they were not citizens that were found to have registered to vote. Now, only about 10% of people get these jury forms, so you really have to multiply by 10, which means that on this basis alone, there are at least 2,000 people in Arizona who registered fraudulently, and we have statewide elections that have been won by less than 2,000 votes. So voter fraud is a significant problem, and this helps us assure that only American citizens and not illegal aliens will vote.
Tom, I marvel at the self-corrections that exist, even with the antipathy from the open borders amnesty crowd. The old reliable jury duty form suddenly becoming the cross-check, and I think that's worth amplifying. Would you tell us again those numbers that you guys found in seeking the jury pool out of the voting pool? What people were telling you again?
Well, jury commissioners send forms out based on voter registration rolls. And if somebody signs a sworn statement that they're not subject to jury duty because they're not a citizen, the jury commissioners send those to the county recorders.
Gotcha, and they're able to act accordingly. Tom, I need to step in here because we need to take a break, but when we come back, we'll have much more with Arizona Attorney General Tom Horne.